Good evening. I would like to call the Delaware Muncie Metropolitan Board of Zoning Appeals December 2020 regularly monthly meeting to order. Marta, would you do roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Bishop,
Here.
Mr. Jones,
Yes, I'm here.
Ms. Kennison, Ms. Mathewson,
Present.
Mr. Watson,
Here.
Mr. Wiseley,
Here.
Mr. Fowler.
Here. Consideration of the November 2020 regularly monthly meeting minutes as distributed.
Make a motion to accept as distributed, Mr. Chairman.
We have
Second.
a motion. We have a second. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bishop,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Mathewson,
Yes.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
Mr. Wiseley,
Yes.
Mr. Fowler.
Yes. Okay, for those that are in attendance tonight, as your case is being read, if you would step up to the podium, give us your name and address, a little bit of description after your case is read so that we can be ready to go. Marta, would you go into new business, please?
Yes. BZA 45-20, excuse me, Jurisdiction Board of Zoning Appeals, being a public hearing on the matter of an application filed by Douglas and Rebecca Slusser, 6209 West Eaton Wheeling Pike, Muncie, Indiana, requesting a variance of use from the terms of the Delaware County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance to allow business use of a new 336 square foot building to sell farm products, including meat, in a farm zone on premises located at 6209 West Eaton Wheeling Pike, Washington Township, Delaware County, Indiana, as more accurately described in the application.
Who represents this case, please?
That's me. I'm Douglas Slusser,
Give us your address, please.
6209 West Eaton Wheeling Pike, Muncie, Indiana.
Mr. Slusser, describe for us a little bit of what you're looking to do here.
We naturally raise meats and produce. We're just looking to have a building for a place to sell those. Most of our orders are pre-orders. People are just coming to pick them up. Some people do come and just buy out of our freezers when they arrive.
So you're just looking to sell product. You're not looking to butcher or do anything else there. You're just looking to sell products.
Correct. All of our butchering is done at Adair Processing in Finnville, Indiana.
Okay. You know, in order to get your permits and all, you'll have to show to the health department that they are USDA or BOA, you know, a processing facility,
Yes.
and be able to prove that to sell that product at your facility if this
Yep.
does get approved. That will be one of the conditions set forth.
Not a problem. They've been Indiana Board of Animal Health certified for very many years.
Yeah, and also the condition will be that there will be no slaughtering or processing, you know, of animals there, that all you're doing is selling product only.
Correct.
I see here that you're saying, you know, during the peak hours, 10 to 7 and maybe 10 to 4. How many employees are you looking to have there?
Just a couple part-time employees.
I see you've only got 3 parking spaces. Where would your employees park?
Across the road is the farm where a lot of our animals are raised. It's owned by my in-laws, Ron and Donna Bailey. And we park a lot of our extra vehicles and the employees park over there.
Okay, so your employees would park over there, and then you just would have 3 spots for customers there then?
Correct. It's
Marta, 3 parking spaces for a 336 square foot building seems adequate, doesn't it?
Yes. More than, actually.
That's what I thought. Does the board have any further questions for Mr. Slusser?
Yes, I have one, Mr. Chairman. What volume of customers do you think you, or do you, I guess, think you will have?
During the winter months, we're just open on the Saturdays. There's maybe a half dozen to a dozen customers during that time frame. During the peak time, during the summer, when all the produce is in season, we might see about 40 people throughout that entire time during the day, at the very most.
40 during a day?
Yeah, during that 10 to 7 period, during that 9-hour period, just spread out through there.
Have you spoke to your neighbors about this?
Yes, many of our neighbors are customers of ours and are very supportive of everything that we've done. And many of them have even been grateful to have the option to be able to buy meats and produce and stuff locally right there instead of having to drive into Muncie to one of the stores.
Okay. So nobody has any issues with additional traffic there then that's going to be produced by this?
No, no one has said anything to us about that.
How will your product arrive? I mean, from a dare, how is it going to be arriving in your trucks, or is it going to be a semi, or?
It's just that we have a van that has the coolers in it that we pack everything in the coolers and then bring it to the store there.
So it's going to be by individual transportation then?
Correct.
Okay. Any further questions from the board?
So the proposed building has air conditioning or refrigeration, I mean?
Once it is in its permanent location, we will then move the refrigerators and freezers into it. Yes.
Thank you.
Any further questions from the board?
Jim, while Mr. Slusher is at the podium, do you maybe want to let him know about the phone call we received? And I think that you also got that in your packet, right? A note from Fred saying that he had a phone call from a neighbor.
Fred had given me a phone call about it.
Okay. Yeah, I will read that. Do you want to read it or you want me to, Marta? Says, today I received a phone call from a neighbor who received legal notice. The caller didn't want to leave name or address, but expressed concern with traffic safety. Stated there has been parking on Eaton Willing Park at his location, states it's not safe. With the State Road 28 closure, there has been increased traffic in this area, I assume, just because of that closure for the time being. Stated any business use should definitely include provision for off-street parking. And that would be one of the provisions is, anybody that's there would park at your facility and wouldn't use the street as parking.
Correct. Yep.
You understand that? And
Yeah,
agree?
we have added those parking spaces. Also on the map that you guys have, the half circle driveway was put in there with directional traffic so people aren't backing out onto the roadway. They will exit from that more west part of the drive where they have more clearance to be able to see on Eaton Willing Pike due to the hills and just the nature of the road there. And
adding that curved drive allows it to stack up in there. If you do have increased traffic, you can stack up in there versus out on the road then.
Correct.
Was that one of your main concerns too?
Yes, that is another benefit of having that drive there.
Okay. One last time, any further questions from the board? Seeing none, Mr. Slusher, you may have a seat.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in attendance today that would like to speak for BZA 45-20? In support, I mean. Seeing none, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in opposition of BZA 45-20? Seeing none, Chair will entertain a motion. And I would like the motion to include that the thing we received from the health department that he must provide USDA or BOA certification to the health department from where he's receiving his meat from.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion for approval of BZA 45-20 with the required of the USDA or BOA approval, any other certification or permits required, and no processing on site.
And limited to the applicant?
And the applicant only.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bishop,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mathewson,
Yes.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
Mr. Wiseley,
Yes.
Mr. Fowler.
Yes.
That is 6 yes, 0 no, with 1 absent, and that is approval of the request with the conditions. And we will set forth that approval in a certificate, and that will allow you to move forward with obtaining all of your required permits. And we will forward a copy of that certificate to the applicant, and then they will be good to go to start obtaining those permits.
Thank you. Once your case has been read and either approved or denied, you are free to leave tonight. Thank you. Next case, please.
BZA 46-20, Jurisdiction Board of Zoning Appeals, being a public hearing on the matter of an application filed by Amy Renee Pope, 8414 South Lynn Street, Daleville, Indiana, requesting a variance of use and a variance from the terms of the Delaware County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance to allow a flower field and event venue business of an existing barn and a ground sign in a farm zone on premises located at 16099 West County Road 750 South, Salem Township, Delaware County, Indiana, as more accurately described in the application.
Who represents this case?
Myself, Amy Renee Pope. My address is 8414 South Lynn Street, Daleville, Indiana, 47334.
Ms. Pope, would you give us a little description of what you're looking to do on your property, please?
We'd like to have an event venue on an existing barn that we already have on our property.
Okay. What all would you like to do? I mean, I know I'm seeing the flowers and then possibly weddings and all this stuff. So give us a little bit of description on how you're going to handle traffic and parking and hours of operation and all that good stuff, and what kind of guidelines you're going to set forth.
Okay. So the property sits on 20 acres, so there's plenty of room for parking. We have one designated area that's been gravelled. Our plan is to do probably primarily weddings, but if somebody wanted to rent the barn for an anniversary or a birthday or graduation and so forth, we could accommodate that. We would not be able to seat any more than 200 guests at the barn. Our hours, if it's for a wedding, we would allow the bride to come on Friday to set up and decorate and do rehearsal. And then Saturday for the wedding date from like 9 to midnight is the latest they can stay. And if they want to come back on Sunday morning to clean up, they can do that if they want to from 10 to 12. If we have just an anniversary party, birthday party, we would let them rent the venue for just 1 8-hour day they could have to be able to set up and have their party. And we would allow them to do that on Friday, Saturday, Sunday from noon to 8 would be their options. And then we also, we're planning on in the spring, maybe doing a flower field where people can come and just pick a flower and do that option.
Okay. I see you and your husband are both have your bartending license and all. So
Yeah.
you two would be the only two serving the alcohol and all that stuff, and
Yes,
they would have to purchase it.
correct. We don't allow
What
any
about,
other bartender.
what about music and all that stuff? Would that be inside, outside music, or is it in the barn, or is everything outside?
Everything has to be inside as far as the DJ, or if they had a band, and that would be something they would provide themselves.
Have you spoke to your neighbors about it? I know you're in a pretty rural area there, but have you spoke to your neighbors about this?
Yeah, we've actually had several neighbors really supportive that things are looking really nice out there. We've really done a lot to the property, so they're happy to kind of see that coming to play. And then I also got a few phone calls this past week asking, do I need to come and help support you, or do I need to be there? Or so they're definitely supportive.
I mean, I see you've got a little in your diagram here, you've got parking all the way to the back of the facility
Yes.
is where all your parking is.
Yeah.
Is there any trees or anything in that area that you guys are going to be taking down, or is that already just a regular field?
It's just a regular field. There was one tree that we did remove a couple of months back that we just were concerned about it, branches or something maybe, so we just removed that one.
Okay, and there's already existing drive back to that
Yes.
because of the barn there already?
Correct.
Okay. Do you plan on having security at your events for wedding events and stuff like that?
It would be my husband and I during the whole event. Will be there.
So you're not looking to add any employees? It would just, this would all be run by you and your husband only?
Yes.
You're not looking to add any employees or anything like that?
No.
Okay. So midnight is your hard time then, that they got to be done and out of there by midnight, or it shuts down at midnight?
They have to be done, cleaned up at midnight. It's over.
Okay.
And that's only on that
So-
one, it would be that late.
So really on Saturday, they're going to be shutting down by 11 to be cleaned up and be out of there by midnight. So, okay. You set it at a maximum 200 then?
Yes.
Okay. Any further questions from the board?
Yes, Ms. Pope. The right of way back to the barn where the parking area is going to be located, is that gravelled now?
Yes, it's all gravelled.
Okay. Thank you.
This is probably more of a question for Marta, but were the property owners in the other counties near this also notified?
Yeah, we do that. That's a requirement.
Just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
Yeah, it's kind of right on the line. So,
Yeah.
okay. Any further questions from the board? Seeing none, Ms. Pope, you may have a seat.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in support of BZA 46-20? I can't see the audience, so I'm just waiting. Seeing none, is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak in opposition of BZA 46-20?
There may be. We had someone call.
Hey, Marta. No one showed up for this case.
Pardon?
Okay, thank you, Brandy.
Yes, no one's here for this case.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Getting ready to go out and check.
Okay. Any further discussion or questions from the board? We never really discussed the ground sign in any case. 4x4 sign being placed at the property. Anybody have any concerns or questions on it?
I guess my only question would be just clarifying the dimensions of it. The application shows 4x4 and the write-up shows 4x6.
Yeah, I see that too on number 7. It says a 4x6, but the dimensions on here say 4x4. I would say we go with what's on her drawing there, the 4x4. That we just approve a 4x4 sign as noted in the drawings submitted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no,
Seeing none, Chair.
I'm sorry.
What's that?
Will there be any restrictions on whether it's lit up in the evenings or the setbacks from the road? Make sure it doesn't get in the way of view of traffic traveling the road.
For the sign, you mean?
Yeah.
It'll have, it does have to be set back from the, at least 5 feet from the proposed right-of-way, which means it would probably end up being 30 feet back from the center of the road at a minimum.
I got you.
Well,
And-
where she shows the sign at on here, seems plenty far enough back to me. I mean, I'm not scaling or anything, but
Yeah,
just how she's got it located on her aerial view, it seems far enough back to me.
Okay. Thank you.
Seeing nothing, Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move for approval of BZA 46-20 with the hardship stated therein and with a 4x4 sign, and for the applicants and the applicants only.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll
Second.
second.
oops, I'm giving it to Leslie.
Uh-oh. We have a motion. We have a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Mathewson,
Yes.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
Mr. Wiseley,
Yes.
Mr. Bishop,
Yes.
Mr. Fowler.
Yes.
That is 6 yes, 0 no, with 1 absent. And that is approval of the request as set forth in the application and with the condition dealing with the 4x4 sign as set forth in the application, and that it's for the applicants and the applicants only.
Thank you.
That approval and forward a copy to the owners, and that would allow them to move forward with their permits.
Thank you. Next case, please.
BZA 47-20, Jurisdiction Board of Zoning Appeals, being a public hearing on the matter of an application filed by Annette Caldwell, 7110 North Morrison Road, Muncie, Indiana, requesting a variance of use from the terms of the Delaware County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance to allow a revised event venue business use of an existing barn in a farm zone on premises located at 6000 West County Road 400 North, Harrison Township, Delaware County, Indiana, as more accurately described in the application.
Who represents this case?
I do, Annette Caldwell,
Can you give us your address, please?
7110 North Morrison, Muncie, Indiana.
Caldwell, you're out here on a new hearing. Can you give us a little description of what has changed and what you've changed in your application since the last time you were in front of us?
Yes, I initially had applied for 400 people. It's a huge barn. And I've lowered that to 200, changed the hours again. I did a broad thing. I lowered those hours to, yes. Okay. Okay. Changed the hours from every day to weekends and created a different parking area with a buffer zone around there. Those are the primary things that I changed.
Okay. I see here you've also created a contract that people must sign.
Correct. I didn't do that at
About
first. 'Cause-
alcohol and cleanup and all that good stuff. And that any entertainment must be indoors and
Yes, I tried to address any concerns that hadn't been brought up the first time. And had not created that contract initially because this is my winter project. I'm super busy and this was something that was going to be worked on, but I did do that to give some confidence that I have heard the objections and want to accommodate those things.
Okay. Any questions from the board right now? So all your parking is going to be off of 400 then?
Yes,
So that's the only way they're going to enter and leave?
correct.
And you plan on having the porta toilets emptied after every event?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any further questions from the board? Seeing none, you may have a seat, Ms. Caldwell. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of BZA 47-20? Seeing none, is there anyone here wishing to speak in opposition of BZA 47-20?
Good evening. William Terhune, 6400 North Nebo Road. I am in opposition to this being passed. I was here at the last meeting where it was denied once before. As I look at the new application, I don't see anything significant. When you folks voted on it and denied it, we had moved the number of people down to 200, so that has not changed. We're still going to have compaction of soil, which will adversely affect the Borland ditch, which is adjacent to the property and feeds directly across the street into a FEMA floodplain area, which will enhance our already water problems. The 200 people on that 2-lane road in our neighborhood, we are not in favor of, especially when you're going to have alcohol served and we'll have people leaving that have had alcohol. We don't want the traffic, we don't want the alcoholic problems, and we certainly don't want the additional water problems caused by water runoff into Borland ditch. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Terhune.
Any questions for me?
Any questions from the board?
Thank you.
Anyone else here wishing to speak in opposition of BZA 47-20?
Yes, hi, my name is Sandy Wordinger. I live at 5959 West County Road, 400 North, Muncie, Indiana. I'm right across the street from her venue. I'm exactly 79 feet from the road, and I think the house that this sits on that she's not going to reside in is 50 feet from the property. So our property is within 100 feet probably of one another because I'm directly across the street. As I got looking at other wedding venues, she has a little over 5 acres. The smallest wedding venue I seen was 16 acres. Some of them's got 220, some of them's got 50. I've never seen one in Delaware County on just 5 acres. That's a major concern. The road is not big enough. This is a residential area, not meant for, to me, this is a commercial business. She's not going to live there. She's not going to reside there. So any problems there.
And whether she resides there or not is not of concern and not of this application. We're here for the venue and venue only, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's zoned farming and single resident home use. And that's, you know, the zoning that we followed. So that's pretty much all I have to say.
Okay. Anyone else here wishing to speak in opposition of 47-20?
Mark Wise, 6310 North Nebo. I would also like to, state that myself and my family feel the exact same way that we did in August, and agreed with everybody's decisions back then. I also don't see much difference in the new application compared to what was presented before. We too have concerns over noise and traffic and compaction of the soil in the area. And while I do appreciate that all the music will be inside, I also know that this is not an air-conditioned barn, and have to feel that probably the doors will be left open in the summer and probably negate any significant decrease in noise at that point. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in opposition of BZA 47-20?
Mary Kay Dalton, 6401 North Morrison Road in Muncie. I'm the same way with the peace and quiet and the agriculture. I think that she ought to be specific on her venue, variance specific. I think with the designated area for parking, I can't believe that they'd let her park in the grass. I know that they usually have to have an architect or someone draw through the state the plans. I'm also worried about she should have fire alarms, and she should have a exit light. She should have a sprinkler system. I think the Board of Health has to get involved if they, or health requirements for the porta potties. And I know her sewage isn't enough to, because that's why they went to the porta potties for the, because the sewage isn't large enough to handle 200 people. I don't think anybody would want to live around all the people coming in and out. The alcohol I'm worried about. They said there might be there would be a sheriff there, which, he's there, and I have respect for the sheriff, but they're not there when everyone's leaving, driving down the road. I think the hours, as far as I'm concerned, it ought to close off at 10 o'clock, because 10 goes to 11, 11 goes to 12, and 12 goes to 1. I see it all the time, and I hear about it at these venues that people are still there after it's supposed to be over partying. But I think venue specific, it might be a wedding venue, but you could have any party you wanted there at any time, and nobody'd really even know it. But I am kind of upset about the agriculture aspect of it, going to commercial. And I know it is a floodplain. I think she ought to have specific building plans. And the alcohol, she's supposed to retain a liquor license, and I hope she has enough insurance to cover herself in case something happens because she is responsible for anything that happens inside that barn, outside, and on the roadway. Let me see. But I don't think anybody, to her, I know this pertains to the venue, but nobody, even in her residence, she would not want that close to her either. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. You don't want that venue, or she'd build a pole barn on her property and have 200 people or whatever come into her place. And I think for the residents around there, I think that it ought to be respected for the peace and quiet. That's why we move out in the country. But I think there's a lot of things that go along with this that I don't think she really understands. And I think it needs to be looked into. And I think the state looks into a lot of things along with architects and you know, the drainage plan. I just think there's a lot of things that need to be looked into. As far as I'm concerned, I hope that they deny it again, because I think there's a lot of work to do. I think she thought she was just going to buy this and have everybody come in and out. And I just think that they ought to have respect for the neighbors. I appreciate your time. And I do think this is something you guys really need to think about, because I think anybody.
As far as permits and stuff, she would have to get all health, you know, she would have to check with Board of Health. She would also have to check with fire department to make sure the building and all that stuff. So she would have to meet all permits and have everybody in there, have it inspected, and also that would be part of the conditions.
And I can't imagine even her having people park in the grass. I just can't. I just can't imagine that would be okay. But I think there's a lot more to this.
There's two venues that I know of that both of them park in the grass.
Well, they might, but they might look into that a little bit, because I think there's more to it than that. I don't know if that's actually allowed, but I think you have to have a designated area, and you have to have it right to be parked in and to enter and exit. And but anyway, I think there's just a lot of things that need to be looked into. This venue's just not, she's not ready for it, and neither are we.
Thank
so
you.
I appreciate your time very much. Bless all of you. Thank you.
Anyone else here wishing to speak in opposition to BZA 47-20?
Donna and Kevin Glaze. We live at 6217 West County Road, 400 North. Again, I have a list of all the venues. They're at least 16 acres to 220. It's just not a good idea. That was built for a family. No wedding venue should be allowed out there. And we opposed it again, and we're here again to stop it as well.
Thank you. Anyone else here wishing to speak in opposition to BZA 47-20? Seeing none, Ms. Caldwell.
Yes.
Okay, would you give us your name and address again, please?
Annette Caldwell, 7110 North Morrison, Muncie, Indiana.
Okay. I guess, I mean, it was just the same things as before. I mean, you've heard the comments and stuff. Anything further you wish the board to hear on your request?
Only just a couple things, and there's a lot of things I could address, but it's not in a floodplain. The reason I wouldn't build another structure, the whole point is preserving this wonderful historic barn. And that's what's happening, because they're no longer sustainable. They talked about the other properties with bigger acreages. My point exactly, my point of the hardship. I don't have the acreage anymore. It is no longer a farm. I cannot support these massive buildings by the land that I have been left. There's none. And if you'll look at my drawings, which you should have, you'll see I am completely surrounded by acres and acres of farm ground. It just doesn't happen to belong to me. So it sets back all of it's got, like I said, literally, well, massive amounts of acres all around me is what I'm surrounded by. So the people are back off of the road. They're not onto other people's land. You don't have to have 20 acres for a venue. But you do need it when you've got massive farm buildings to support a farm, and I can't do that. One of the suggestions in one of the letters I read today was parking farm equipment in there. Well, one, I don't have land to farm, and two, it's not, these buildings cannot be usable for that. They're small interior doorways. I would never mess with the integrity of the barn to change that. But we have to find new uses for these old barns. They're being destroyed all over the country. We have 20,000 left in Indiana. I think they said at last count. They're going all this because of the expense to maintain them. And that's for farmers that actually have farm. I don't have farm anymore. So many of the things that they addressed, the concerns about the alcohol, the traffic, the whatever, those have not panned out. You haven't seen people when you have had the others come back and had to file again. Through the change of ownership, the neighbors don't object because there aren't objections. It's not a problem. They have not proved to be a problem. I understand that they're concerned, but those concerns don't seem to be valid. So the roads are made for cars. Anybody can drink. I think it's safer at weddings if people are going to drink. They do have that designated driver, what have you. You don't have one person out. I just think there's just a reason we don't hear about these concerns that have been voiced. And we have a number, as we see, of these venues all over.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for Ms. Caldwell?
The only concern I have is just the 224 dwellings in the square mile. And the Pope that we approved tonight was probably the largest we approved with 47 dwellings in a square mile. But, that's like almost 5 times the amount of any of the others.
I'm not sure if you were here at the last one. 2/3 of that is a mobile home trailer park, the worst trailer park in the county, known for, they didn't object. None of them objected. So when you take out that large number concentrated in that small section, it completely changes our figures. And when you look again at my property versus the proximity of the others, it's not significant. When you also look at the barn on Eisenagel, they have 247. The homes, very, very high-end homes, I might add, all around them are all over. They are much.
If the people in the audience, please, could be quiet so Miss Caldwell can talk, please.
They have 247 homes within 1 square mile of the barn on Eisenagel, a hugely popular venue. Again, we hear no complaints. We don't hear any issues. And there are homes all around. They're much, much closer than my barn is to the surrounding homes.
Just for the record, the one that you're speaking of on Eisenagel is not in the board's jurisdiction, so there was not information in that provided to the board members.
Well, yes. I got from the county, and I can hold it up for if you want to see it. It shows, you can see there's tons of dots, much, much closer. If you could tell this than mine.
Yeah, it takes into consideration the Players Club, all those houses around there.
I want to say that residing in a manufactured house does not constitute not living in a dwelling.
I understand that, but there was concern about some of I would have never brought that up until people say to me, this property is going to affect their property values. It's not going to affect negatively their property values. It will increase their property values. So, and unlike what some properties, what modulars, mobile homes do affect the other neighbors. I understand that they have their rights. Everybody has the same rights, but this barn was there long before the mobile home was moved directly out of my driveway. That has to be looked at every time. That's the one thing that people remark when they come, other than how special the barn is, that this is the view. And so that could have, they have 5 acres. It could have been moved anywhere. Why they would put it out the driveway, I don't know. but this building was there. This is a farmstead dating back to 1890. The barn itself was built in 1940. It was there before all these others. It was there first, and we deserve the right to maintain it, preserve it, keep it for future generations. It needs a new purpose. I have absolutely proved a hardship here because there is a significant one.
I would say that also condition would be the any driveway or any permits would be need to be looked at by the county engineer, the road cut, you know, and stuff like that. And that all other, like I said to her, all permits, fire permits and anything like that within the building, you'd have to have a fire department out to have it looked at and make sure everything is safe and safe exits and all that stuff. And your exits are clearly marked and everything.
Absolutely.
Mr. Fowler, for the record, we should also note the materials that you received in your packets that included letters in opposition and petitions in opposition from, I tried quickly to count the numbers. I think it's 40 plus people. So those are all included in your packets and are a part of the record.
Yes, thank you, Marta. Any further questions for Ms. Caldwell? Seeing none, you may have a seat.
Is that for the board?
Any further discussion from the board?
Oh, I just wanted, thank you.
Seeing none, Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to make approval of BZA 47-20 with the hardship stated therein for the applicant and applicant only. And then required to get all permits and required for operation.
And to check with the county highway department for any road
And check
improvements.
with the drainage committee, the fire department, any applicable
Permit or need.
permit for business.
Okay. We have a second. Do we have we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
I think I heard Alan first, so.
Yep. Alan. Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Jones,
I do not like, if I could, please. I do not like to deny somebody the opportunity to do something lawful. I assume it's obviously it won't be permitted unless we, as a board, approve the variance, correct?
correct.
Correct.
And frankly, I think the opposition has legitimate concerns, and I vote no on the application, the approval.
Thank you.
Ms. Mathewson,
No.
Mr. Watson,
No.
Mr. Wiseley,
No.
Mr. Bishop,
No.
Mr. Fowler.
No.
That is 0 yes and 6 no with 1 absent. And that is denial of the request. And at this point with the denial, there are 2 options. One is you can wait 1 year and file again, or you can file with the courts and appeal the board's decision through a writ of certiorari.
Thank you. Report from the director.
Oh, yes. So did we, I don't know if people are still in the room, but I don't really have anything to report except that I will say that there are members of the staff who were wondering if the board would want to consider amending their rules to, well, basically to remove the option of applying for a second hearing. Because that's solely a provision that's in your rules of procedure and not in statutes or anything else. And it was a provision that was inserted, I don't know, several years back. So I didn't know if that's something you would want to consider doing an amendment to the rules, which if you want to consider that, we could certainly do that. So.
I don't really see a reason to change that rule, because I think if a case gets denied and if somebody goes back to the drawing board, talks to their neighbors, works something out, and they kind of, make a peace, they came there and were shocked at who came and or what, and didn't have all their ducks in a row, or maybe didn't have everything, and then they go back, they work things out with their neighbor and they can get it worked out. I'm all for that. I don't like to, I wouldn't want to remove that, I guess.
I agree with Mr. Fowler.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would agree with that too. And I think back to the appeal we had a few months ago where we had Mr. McCormick before us, where he originally wanted to build the threeplex and the board was divided on that. But if we had voted him down on the threeplex, then he would have had to wait a year before the single family dwelling, which is what we ultimately approved. So he changed it, but because he still needed the variance to build anything there, I think it's better that we keep it. So if they want to change some of it and come back to us, that they don't have to wait the full year.
Okay.
I have a question.
I agree.
I have a question. So like in the case that Alan was referring to, if someone does have those issues where they've come and maybe the board wants additional information or they want to change things, can they or the board ask then that issue be brought back at the next meeting?
Mm-hmm.
That they just say, hey, I want to continue this. I want to remove this from the agenda tonight. And I want to continue it to the next meeting.
Yep.
Is that what you're asking, Leslie?
Yes, because again, I still disagree with having that because again, we just sat through an extensive option where people have come back. We've made the same determination as before. And again, if they have an option to be able to ask and maybe come back a month, I would be fine with that. But, if it's, as I said last time, you start going down a slippery slope, how many of these people are going to be asking for us? How many meetings are we going to be continuing to hear the same thing over and over again just because somebody has new evidence?
I would just assume if they're in a meeting and there's issues and they can work it out, I would just say, hey, I would like to continue this to next month to work it out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we did with the Muncie City Sanitary District with their buildings there when they were working with the Wiseley and with the church there. We approved it in increments so that they could work out issues if there was any stuff. So, I would obviously like to go down that path versus deny it or something like that. And then to have what happened tonight, I understand.
Yeah.
I've only got 2 meetings now under my belt on this board, and there's a whole lot more I don't know than what I do. But frankly, as a board member, I'm looking for reasons why we can assist somebody rather than deny them the opportunity. And if it takes a meeting to do that, an extra meeting to do that, I'm in favor of it.
Okay.
Okay, so that's it.
Hey, Marta, question for you while we've got you. I know we brought up that little tree place there on State Road 3 right by Wheeling and the mobile home that's there.
Tree place.
Yeah, the guy that's selling lumber right by the village pantry there on 3 or 28. I'm sorry, 28. 28 in Wheeling there that's got the mobile home sitting there.
Yeah.
Or did they ever get, that mobile home's supposed to not be there, correct?
Jim, I do not know. I did not look into that, so I've not talked to anyone about that, so I can't answer.
I thought you said Fred or somebody went out there one time and told him he had to remove that.
Yeah, and so but I've not talked to Fred or Tom Fouch, the building commissioner, about that. So
Because now that's his office.
I'll have to do that and get back with you.
Okay, because that mobile home is now his office for his lumber sales, his
Gotcha.
wood sales.
Yeah, gotcha.
And now he's got nothing but trash piled up around there. Yeah, limbs, everything. Yeah.
Nice.
I can't believe a neighbor would want that around them and not file a complaint.
Yeah.
It looks horrid. So, okay.
I'll find out and let you know.
All right.
Okay.
We have a motion for adjournment.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
We're adjourned.
Happy holidays,
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.